In today's video, we are going to be talking about the Wesley Fofana replacements being linked with Chelsea, how it could work, which ones will work best, and which ones are the most likely to do a job. We're going to start off this video with Marc Guehi, the one that is going around in the press the most at the moment. Of course, he did come from Chelsea back in 2021, joining Palace for a fee of around 20 million. Guehi was one of England's best, if not their best performer at Euro 2024, showing his ability not only on the ball, but also off the ball to be aggressive and win those duels. Guehi is a dream on the ball for a manager like Enzo Maresca, who wants his defenders to be able to orchestrate play and go either way, not being broadcast with their passing. Much like Levi Colwill, Marc Guehi is brilliant at opening up his body to bait defenders in, where he can then go either way, using his ball manipulation to put it onto either his left or right foot and find that pass through the gaps. Playing this style of football where you want to build out from the back, it's important to be able to bait your opponent with your movement, and that starts with the defenders such as Marc Guehi and Levi Colwill, who would you have two of them if you had them both at the back together. This is an example of Guehi opening up his body, looking like he's going to play a broadcast pass out to the left side before instantly turning and putting it through that gap and breaking those lines into the middle of the pitch, breaking that soft spot of the press, something that Levi Colwill also does on a regular basis. Marc Guehi's defensive underlying numbers all stack up quite nicely against the likes of Wesley Fofana as well, making 1.68 tackles per 90, making 1.89 blocks per 90, and making 0.66 interceptions per 90. Guehi also makes 4.26 recoveries per 90, as well as winning 2.47 aerial duels, despite being quite small for a defender, winning 61.8% of his aerial duels. The biggest difference between a profile like Guehi, who relies more on his intelligence and his timings on when to win those duels, compared to the likes of Fofana and a few other names we're going to discuss, who really rely on that physical presence that they bring to the table and athleticism that they have. So let's discuss Marc Guehi over on the tactics board. As we've sort of gone through, there's a lot of positives to Marc Guehi, and I just want to dispel the sort of rumour straight away. Not rumour, but like the discourse around Guehi. I do think he absolutely is good enough for this level. The difference is I think at Chelsea, there's just too many external factors that have to be correct for him to succeed. And we're going to go over why I mean that. Because we've spoken about the positives of Guehi and what he adds, especially in possession. But he's also got a lot of out-of-possession qualities, right? He's a leader. He's very good at anticipating things. And he's a good box defender, despite the height. He is. There's a lot of positives to him. However, this man is very important to the sort of dynamic that I would suggest is the most optimal way, if you're going to buy Guehi, that you have to then set up the defence. So, instantly, if you just plop Guehi into this spot where sort of Wesley Fofana had played, you instantly have both your wide defenders who, yes, can jump out and win duels in here, can be aggressive, can defend wide areas. They have the more than enough ability to defend wide areas, right? But you've got a height issue in terms of back post. And that's back post for Cucurella, and that's back post for Guehi if Gusto hasn't retreated in time, or if he's counter-pressing upfield. So that's an issue, because I don't think it's not optimal to have two players essentially that are small as your wide centre-backs, because you're just missing physicality. And if you are going to have that, you at least need to have some sort of offset of physicality somewhere else. We already have a small midfield base. Again, it's not like ridiculous, like Palmer's not ridiculously small, Enzo's not ridiculously small, but they're smaller players. They're not physical freaks. This team literally only really has Colwill and Jackson. I'm just trying to think if that's correct. Obviously not Sanchez, that stand at a decent height, right? And that, whilst the game isn't about that, it's part of the balance of a squad. So, with that being said, how do you fix that? The optimal way to get Guehi into this team would be someone like Gusto not playing and someone like Achimpong playing. Now, we're not going to play Achimpong in here, though. What would then happen is the shifts around the pitch. Is Cucurella would come inside with Caicedo. Colwill would become that left centre-back. Guehi, that central centre-back. Achimpong at that right centre-back. Now what you have is Colwill can be slightly more aggressive. I still think he is like the sort of the ice cold defender still at times. But you've got Cucurella on that side as well to be an aggressor. Okay. Same with Caicedo here. Achimpong is your sort of Fofana-esque skill set. And you have him on the outside as a right centre back, but he's coming in from a right back. So he's got less box defending responsibility, but he gets to be that aggressive and he gets to use his physicality and his frame. Guehi, then, you get the best out of him on the ball, as we said in the sort of positives before, but he's also got a bit of protection, and he can be that cover man, a bit like what Colwill has been so well this season. Now, again, what you then have to consider is Colwill is probably best in this spot as well. So then, could you even play Guehi and Colwill on the opposite sides? Because Guehi has been playing as a left centre back for Palace. The issue with that is then when it does become a back four, is you then have these two players on their opposite side. So I think that would depend on sort of the opposition that you're going to be playing against. Because if, say, you're going to have a lot of the ball, then you could probably do this. But then, or if you're going to play over two, if at times you're going to push this player up as well into this pocket and sort of play that diamond shape, then you'd probably want them to be like this on their stronger sides, just for angle bias, right? So it's an important thing to consider with Guehi. I definitely think he's good enough, and I can completely see why Maresca would want him, right? Because positional managers, they want these sort of low risk passes. They're high risk passes, but there's low risk of turnover because of how good they are at them and their quality to sort of manipulate and shape the ball to get it through these gaps that teams create, these sort of passing gates, as we call them. Guehi and Colwill are both cheat codes in that aspect. And for positional coaches to have two orchestrators like that is a dream, because they're not going to make many mistakes on the ball. They're going to slow the tempo down when it needs to be slowed down. They can go direct over the top when they need to. And on ball, the in-play principles are perfect. But like I say, I think with these out of possession sort of deficiencies, which is something we always speak about for Enzo as well. What out of possession deficiencies does he have? How can you cover them up? I think a similar thing would have to be said for Guehi, in the sense that to provide balance, I think someone like Joshua Chempong would be really important to really aid that. And I think if you sign Guehi, I think you're almost saying that Chempong has to also be fast tracked with his minutes. So I think that's something to take into account. Let's go talk about a few of the other options that I like, that are a little bit more like for like with Wesley Fofana and don't cause as much of a sort of shift in the dynamics of the squad. So who are the more like-for-like options with Wesley Fofana? Well, to get to the bottom of that, we need to remember what Wesley Fofana's role is and what he does bring to the table. Wesley Fofana is around 6'1", and he is known for his blistering recovery pace. It's that athletic ability that allows him to win 1.15 tackles per 90, make 1.24 blocks per 90, and also make 1.06 interceptions per 90. Along with this, he is aggressive when jumping out from the back line, winning 4.34 recoveries per 90 and also winning 2.04 aerial duels, which is 69.7% of his aerial duels in a game. Lastly, playing as that wide centre-back in a back three when in possession for Maresca's side, it is important that he can carry the ball forward on the outside of an opposition block with 1.24 progressive carries per 90. So the first like-for-like option we're going to talk about is Ousmane Diomande, who plays for Sporting, stands at 6'3", and is also very well known for that recovery speed that we spoke about with Wesley Fofana. Diomande is averaging 1.1 tackles per 90 this season, with 0.55 blocks and 1.15 interceptions made per 90. But more impressively, he is showing that aggressive and tenacity to jump out into these midfield areas, winning 5.11 recoveries in a game and also winning 2.69 aerial duels per 90 with a 74.2% win rate. In regards to his progressive carries, Diomande is only making 0.22 per 90 this season. That being said, that is very much due to the role he's playing as a more central centre-back in a back three this season compared to the wide centre-back role, which he would be more suited to, where last season he was making 0.94 progressive carries per 90, and the season before that he was making 1.73 per 90. Next up, we have Christian Mosquera from Valencia, and he stands at 6'2" and yet again is known for that recovery pace and athleticism. Mosquera is averaging 0.89 tackles per 90 with 1.12 blocks and 1.03 interceptions. He is also making a whopping 5.42 recoveries per 90, which is the highest so far from the defenders we spoke about, but he is only winning 1.17 of his aerial duels with a 41.2% win rate, losing 1.68 per 90. In regards to his progressive carrying, he is making 0.95 progressive carries per 90 from that similar zone that we spoke about with Wesley Fofana. Now, I didn't feel right making this video without mentioning Abdulkadir Kusanov, who is on his way to Manchester City, who fits this profile exactly in terms of that aggressive, wide centre-back who has that unbelievable athleticism and physicality to his game that makes him inevitable. However, his move to Manchester City is basically done, so we're going to leave that there. And as the last like-for-like replacement, we do have Ronald Araujo from Barcelona. Now, in terms of being a like-for-like fit, it doesn't get much closer than Araujo. But the problem with that is that also goes along with his injury record, and that is not a risk that Chelsea can take right now. But Chelsea do already have their own freak athlete profile apart from Fofana, which is Josh Achempong, who is a right-back/right centre-back hybrid. As we spoke about in the Guehi part of the video, there is ways of getting Achempong into the team that can bring a similar skill set that you've lost with Wesley Fofana, whilst also bringing a different type of player, so that is an option. But my choice is Bournemouth's Ilya Zabani, and he is a 6'2" central defender, 22 years old, from Ukraine. Zabani is making 1.5 tackles per 90, making 1.2 blocks per 90, and making 0.92 interceptions per 90. Along with this, Zabani is also making 5 recoveries per 90, winning 2.3 aerial duels, which is 67.6% of his aerial duels won. And lastly, the Ukrainian is making 0.7 progressive carries per 90 with 3.85 progressive passes per 90. For me, Zabani is the perfect blend of all the profiles that we've spoken about in this video. Brings that little bit more physicality doing that front foot defending, which Guehi can do, but like we say, he brings that, he's 6'2", he's got a little bit more in his arsenal in terms of that physicality to step into these positions. He's willing to do it, and he's already done it at Bournemouth, playing that man-to-man press, especially from long balls. He's also no slouch. He can get around the pitch and he can cover that ground when he does follow his man into midfield, forcing them to go backwards a lot of the time. But more similarly to Guehi, you do have the fact that Zabani can look like he's going to go both ways. He can add that disguise in his passes, and most of all, he can play the ball long and short. He has that wide range of passing. Zabani has shown the intelligence of when to circulate play, when to go into those wide areas, and when to unleash that killer ball from out of the back going direct over the top of defenders, much like Levi Colwill does to great effect. Another similarity that we spoke about with Guehi is that ball manipulation and the ability to draw defenders in by making it look like you're going to go one way, making the press sort of flip to one side before then making the correct decision and playing through. Zabani has been very good at doing that for Bournemouth this season. This shows it here again, but with that ball manipulation actually being him to carry it in that wide area. He's bringing 3 players towards him before attracting that pressure and then playing through the line. So he's used that carrying ability to attract pressure before then releasing it through and allowing his team to attack with an underloaded side of the pitch. If you don't believe me, here are the stats. These are just from the end of December. Zabani making the most through passes with 18, and then he's also winning the 4th highest amount of duel percentage with 79.38. So we've made the case for many centre-backs in this video and many different options. For me, Zabani is probably the most risk-free. I think the highest ceiling players are the ones in those middle sections, but they are also the rawest profiles and will take the longest time to mould. So that is part of the decision-making. Guehi, again, he's an exceptional player. He adds that leadership to the best degree, and he's familiar with the club. So it's another one of those deals that makes a lot of sense. But which player would you bring into Chelsea to make an immediate impact in that Wesley Fofana role? Let me know in the comments down below.